Appreciate about Mrs. Dohrman?
I appreciate Mrs. Dohrman's positivity. I appreciate the fact that we are hallway neighbors. She is definitely a princess, and I appreciate the fact that she is there for me inside and outside of school. I can go to her about anything. I love the fact that we connect on not just school levels, and that she's my friend as well.
Mrs. Dohrman, she's probably read 55 books in a year.
What do you think Mrs. Dohrman's biggest pet peeve is?
I would say Mrs. Dohrman's biggest pet peeve is kids who do not do their homework.
Oh, she has a lot of accomplishments, but I guess the biggest one, if I narrow it down, is that she loves kids and she's been here a long time for kids. Certainly talented, big heart, dependable, always here, somebody you can count on, cheerful, positive young lady. Again, back to loving kids and doing what's best for them, I would say is a great accomplishment, along with very professionally dressed. You know, she has to work weeks and weeks to find the shoes that match her outfits and so on and so forth. So that's what I would mention as for her accomplishments.
Something I appreciate about Mrs. Dohrman is how cute she is every single day, and her outfits, because they're really cute, and just her.
I think in Mrs. Dohrman's free time, I think she likes to read, and I think she likes to garden, and I think she likes to spend time with her family and her boys.
How long do you think Mrs. Dohrman's worked here?
Well, I'm not sure, but I know she taught my mom, so at least 30 years.
What is Mrs. Dohrman's biggest pet peeve?
Her biggest pet peeve is when students don't get their homework done, because most of her work isn't that complicated anyway.
I would think it would be kids being late for class and not paying attention in her classroom.
She's a big gardener. I've had questions for her during the summer sometimes with school. If I go by her house, she'll be out like digging in her garden, and she's got all kinds of flora around her house. And yep, I think she's got a green thumb.
What do you think Mrs. Dohrman does in her free time?
What I think Mrs. Dohrman does in her free time, I think she works really hard and gets ready to do, teaches a lot of kids hard about speech stuff, and what we gotta keep doing with speech stuff, and what's good and what's bad, and what can we teach the person, some other new things.
What do you think Mrs. Dohrman does in her free time?
She probably reads books.
What do you think Mrs. Dohrman does in her free time?
I think she probably quilts blankets.
Favorite memory of Mrs. Dohrman?
My favorite memory of Mrs. Dohrman was this one time on a bus. No, I'm just kidding, I can't tell you about that. But I have lots of favorite memories of Mrs. Dohrman. She was like one of the first people that kind of took me under her wing when I got a job here.
What is something you appreciate about Mrs. Dohrman?
Something I appreciate about Mrs. Dohrman is how kind she is to everybody and how she smiles at everybody in the hall. What do you appreciate about Mrs. Dohrman in speech?
I appreciate how helpful she is, and she just gives me good suggestions, and she's really helpful with when you go to write your speech.
What do you appreciate about Mrs. Dohrman?
That she's funny and she has a lot of good ideas for people when they get to do speeches.
What does Mrs. Dohrman do in her free time?
I feel like Miss Dohrman does a lot of reading in her free time because she loves to talk about all kinds of different types of books she loves.
What do you think Miss Dohrman does in her free time?
What Mrs. Dohrman does in her free time, I think, is she likes to garden. She works out in her garden. She has a big, beautiful garden, vegetable and flower garden, and I think she likes to make wine.
What is your favorite thing about Mrs. Dohrman's class?
My favorite thing about Mrs. Dohrman's class is the
I'll
candy
make sure
machine.
that I have it.
The things I appreciate about Mrs. Dohrman are willing to help kids with spelling and helping kids get good grades and able to take bad grades out of grade.
I think Mrs. Dohrman's favorite book is To Kill a Mockingbird or Pride and Prejudice.
And she has probably been at West Holt Public Schools for at least 55 years, so.
The thing about Mrs. Dohrman as a person, I think, well, she's a really nice person. She taught a lot of she taught my uncle, she taught a lot of my stuff, she taught a lot of my parents and a lot of the people that related to me here at school, and I think she's a really good teacher, and hopefully we have a good hopefully I have a good speech meet with her, and it'll be my first time doing it, and I think we're going to be doing just fine with it.
She spends lots of time looking for shoes. She once told me that she has 692 different pairs of shoes, and that's actually why they had to build the house over here. She has got 7 closets to put all those shoes in. So I think that's probably what she does in her spare time.
What do you think Mrs. Dohrman's biggest pet peeve is?
I think Miss Dohrman's biggest pet peeve is either not getting your homework done or not studying for vocabulary tests.
What do you think Mrs. Dohrman does in her free time?
She probably reads. I'll just go on a limb there. Reading. Maybe eating sometimes, but like most people. That's it.
I think Mrs. Dohrman's biggest pet peeve is kids showing up late to class and not having an excuse for it.
How long do you think Mrs. Dohrman's worked here?
I'm going to go with 18 years.
How long do you think Mrs. Dohrman's worked here?
13 years.
What is your favorite thing about Mrs. Dohrman's class?
Well, how she has it decorated and how she assorts stuff, how she moves stuff, and she asks what is missing around the class, what's missing from its spot, and then you have to try and find it.
Mrs. Dohrman grew up northwest of Rushville, and that's kind of tough country. So Mrs. Dohrman, what I appreciate about her is everybody thinks she's kind of like the sweet little English teacher, and she kind of is, but she's also from Rushville, so she can be kind of she can kind of be a butt kicker when she needs to be. And I think that's hard to balance those things. So Mrs. Dohrman's generally pretty sweet, but sometimes she's got to show her teeth a little bit. Because she's from Rushville, she knows how to do that.